What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Juice and Toya podcast, brought to you by One Body Los Angeles. I'm your co-host, Juice.
And I am Toya. Welcome back to episode 7.
What's happening?
Woo!
So, quick housekeeping. We're going to get right into it today because we got a good topic. We spent some time on this topic today because we know there's a lot of questions when it comes to this topic. So we really want to break it down for you. If you got to take notes, do whatever you got to do. But it's a good episode.
Yep.
But before we get into a quick housekeeping, what we got, Toya?
So first, our brand new merch is here. We have brand new One Body LA / Lululemon merch.
Hey.
For those of you that don't know, we have a merch partnership with Lululemon. So you know that the clothing you're going to get is quality. It's going to last you a long time. And we just dropped some new fall colors. So if you want some new colors to your One Body LA clothing collection, go check that out at onebodyla.com /shop. We sold out of a couple things that are now restocked. So if you checked in the last week or so and we were sold out, check back. We restocked some things. And get your fall merch.
Oh, yeah. And shout out to the people who've already bought their merch. We appreciate the support. We can't wait to see what it looks like on your amazing body. So next, what we got, we have dropped the Level Up 2.0 8-week Juice and Toya program. That's a mouthful. If you don't know anything about this program, it's a strength and conditioning program. We've been working on this the last 3 months or so.
A long time.
It is the most work we've ever put into any project or program.
It's our first 8-week program and our longest program.
Correct. So it's an 8-week program. We have a nutrition guide, of course, because what's workouts without your nutrition? Of course, 8 weeks of workouts, which includes 8 exclusive follow-along workouts within that program. So go check that out. We also have recipes. I don't know if I just said that.
Nope. 10 plus recipes.
10 plus.
Including some sweet tooth recipes because you have to have that in there.
No, she has to have that.
My favorite recipe in there is this creamy Parmesan pasta recipe. We get the question a lot on, are there vegan options? And we are not vegan, so there's not vegan options. However, most of them are able to be made vegan. We don't consume really any dairy, not a lot of dairy. One of them I think has shaved Parmesan, which you could do vegan or completely take it off. So a lot of them are vegan friendly that you could make vegan with substitutions that you enjoy. Correct. So like you said, recipes, a full 8-week program, exclusive follow-along workouts that are not on YouTube, and plenty of guides that will guide you along the way on tailoring the program from reps to sets, time, etc. So it's all laid out for you.
Literally all laid out. It's $45 for the program. If you want to just buy it separately and have it for life, $45. And I'm going to be straight up with y'all. This is probably worth $100, maybe
or more.
100 plus, honestly. But again, we mentioned this before. We want to make it affordable and also an investment for people. Again, if you're going to invest in anything, why not your body?
Exactly.
So $45, we put $100 plus value into this package, into this program. So go check it out. But also, if you want to check out the Juice and Toya app, or if you're already on it, it's available for you right now for free. You're already paying the subscription. So there's the program. So you'll also have, if you're on the app, you'll also have access to all the other programs, workouts, stretches, recipes that we have on there as well.
And one-on-one messaging feature.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget?
So you will literally be able to message us one-on-one. And I say this all the time between our socials, YouTube, Facebook, emails. We wish we had time to sit back and respond to every single thing. But the one thing that we prioritize is our app messaging. So if you ever want to get a hold of us, that's the way to do it.
Exactly. So
check that out.
That's the housekeeping for today. Let's go ahead and roll right into the topic today.
Let's get into it. So you probably clicked this topic because it is something, like he said, that's very important, very much asked about, and important for 99% of people reaching their goals, body fat.
Yes. And I think in this episode, we just want to talk about what body fat is. I think, there's so much, again, we say this every episode, I feel like, but so much information, so much stuff going around on social media, and you may even be someone that's just so confused because you're hearing so much information. So we're going to break down scientifically, but kind of dumb it down, what body fat is, how it's formed, how do you get rid of it, and also kind of clear your perception of what body fat is and how to lose or gain it. Because again, it's so skewed and people have so many, it's just bad. So we're just gonna clear the air today, just give you a foundation of what body fat is and like the processes of it.
Yeah. And like you said, we're going to try to keep this as dumbed down as possible. If we start getting into like triglycerides and all the terms, that gets more confusing. So just from a general population, very broad, there are 6 different types of body fat.
My gosh.
We are going to be focusing on visceral and subcutaneous. Yes. And I know those are big words. That's probably as big as we're going to get with words today. Subcutaneous fat, think of that as the fat you can grab. So in your leg, on your stomach, in your arm.
The tricep.
The tricep. Someone called those bird wings before.
That is awful.
It's awful.
Don't call it that.
That's what I always said too. Really? I don't like bird wings. I don't
bird wing. That's just, I feel like it's just giving it a bad name and making it
also
worse than
everyone that does this and goes like this, like, you know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Yeah, so that little area. So think of subcutaneous as something that you can grab. It's more superficial.
Yes.
And then that deep body fat, this is more so centered around your organs, and it is a fat that you do not want, visceral fat. No. Visceral fat can wrap around the organs. It affects your organs, can cause disease around the organs. Yes. So that is usually fat that you don't see. That is visceral fat.
And that is very bad. That is fat.
That is very bad.
That is the fat you do not want. So we get into the pros and cons of like what body fat is, why it's important not to have so much in your body as well. So
let's talk about how the body fat is formed, and more so this is going to be subcutaneous. Visceral fat is going to be a lot harder to form, and that's more another topic, but just know visceral fat is bad. You don't want that. Subcutaneous fat is the fat that most of you want to lose superficially, right? We all should want to lose visceral fat. We should not have that. But subcutaneous fat is that fat that you can see when you're like, I want to lose fat around my midsection, or I want to lose fat around my legs or whatever.
Yes. And that's the fat, like when most people say they want to lose weight, that's what they're talking about. That body fat, right? Whether it's around the waist or the arms, whatever the case may be. So let's just get into, what goes into, I guess, the formation of body fat, right? And I think I want to clear the air in a sense of, I think a lot of people think you lose body fat just diminishes, right? So like if the body fat in your body, let's say you lost 20 pounds and you assume that, all right, all that body fat has completely left my body. When in reality, the science is you have body fat cells. Your body fat is made up of cells, and those cells shrink, right? Yep. They don't diminish. They don't just poof, right?
They don't disappear.
Yes, they shrink in size, which is what creates the appearance of less body fat.
Yes. So on that topic of how body fat is formed, exactly, you are born with fat cells. And this is where a lot of times you see people talk about like, oh, your body fat depends on your genetics. A big portion of that is because you don't get to decide how many fat cells you have when you're born with them, right? So exactly, like just throw a couple here and there.
Let me get about 4 right here, 2 over here.
So you are born with fat cells, then those fat cells increase in size.
Yes.
You can also create more fat cells. So when those fat cells are like, yo, we can't fit any more in here, it is possible to create more fat cells.
Yes.
But as he mentioned, you do not get rid of them. So the problem is when you're increasing in fat cell numbers, you're increasing the number of fat cells that can also increase in size, which makes it now easier for you to put on body fat because you've increased the number of fat cells you have. So for some people, if they're like, I never gained weight like this when I was younger, you may have increased in fat cells, right? So now when you lose body fat, those fat cells shrink in size, but they are still in your body. So that means if you go back to gaining more body fat, you can get larger because you now have more fat cells.
Exactly. Yeah. So is there let's get into like the ways in which you can increase body fat. So one, which is common amongst, especially post-COVID era, is being sedentary. Like just sitting all day, not necessarily not utilizing your body, not moving around, not burning any calories, essentially, right? That's one way of just forming body fat. Because in most cases, especially here in America, if you're sedentary, most cases you're eating more than you're burning throughout the day, like just with the American diet, you know what I mean? Like,
or even on like your COVID point, especially for us, we went from being out of the house from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. to where we packed a lunch, packed a snack, and that's what we ate. Versus when you're in the house, how easy it was
to get a snack.
I would walk in the kitchen to grab water and would leave with food and not even have water. You know what I mean?
I'll walk in the kitchen, Toya's just staring at the pantry.
Like, what can I have in here?
And literally she'll stare at it and just walk off.
Yeah.
It's just a habit.
Exactly. And so that was something we noticed, especially amongst our clients, like just being more sedentary was a lot easier to just consume more because of boredom, mindlessness, you know. So
another way to store, and not necessarily it's going to cause you to store body fat, but one way that causes just excessive body fat is not having a lot of muscle mass, right? Muscle mass, again, we talked about this in past podcasts. It increases your metabolism, right?
Or the rate at which you burn fat.
And the rate, there you go, dumbing it down.
Because I did have someone that said, I thought metabolism was an organ.
Oh.
So sometimes we have to remember, like, we've studied this. So some people don't know what metabolism is, like what that means.
I've never heard that, but that's I can see how people could think that. It's not like it's far out of there.
Right. And so metabolism is your body burning its energy. So the rate at which your fat is burning, that
exactly.
is increased.
Think of your metabolism as like an engine and the efficiency of that engine, right? You know what I mean? You want your engine to be efficient in the way that it burns energy or burns fat. So
so having more muscle mass increases that rate. So now your loss of body fat has increased.
Great.
The very common one or the very obvious one, eating more calories or energy than the energy your body is burning. So on that metabolism front, if you're eating more than your metabolism can burn, now you're storing more of those triglycerides, your body fat, and it goes into the fat cells, for lack of a better word.
And beyond that, there's so many different ways that your body can store one. But also another thing to think of is, number one, genetics. Like genetically, some people build or gain body fat more than others. And then also, too, think of chronic diseases or certain diseases or like diabetes, right? It makes it harder for you to makes it easy to store fat and sometimes harder to lose.
Yep, so insulin resistance makes it a lot harder to utilize those carbs. Those end up getting stored. So there's some things that are out of your control too, and some things that are in your control.
A lot of things that are in your control. We're going to get into that.
control. And then lastly, kind of on the front of being sedentary, getting little aerobic activity. We're going to get to this a little bit more, but your body fat is actually expelled through bodily processes, breathing, urinating, sweating. So the aerobic activity usually causes more like breathing heavy, expiration, and sweating.
Yeah, basically through the waste that your body exerts. So with the sweat,
So it doesn't mean just taking some breaths is going to lose body fat. The body fat, it still has to be broken down. But that's where aerobic activity can make a difference.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if people was like, the new fad went around that breathing loses body fat and people just
exhaling,
like
24/7.
inhaling, exhaling everywhere. That would be,
don't do that. You mess up your carbon
dioxide.
The
new TikTok workout, breathing excessively.
But yeah, so those are just a few of the ways that can limit your body fat loss or increase the rate at which you're storing as well. So now we kind of talked about how it's formed or like different things that can cause you to have more body fat. But let's get into pros and cons of body fat. We hear more about losing body fat than we ever hear about having body fat and the importance or gaining of body fat.
For sure. So obviously, in most 95 to 99% of the time, you don't want as much body fat on your body as possible. Number one, when you build body fat, right, it builds around wherever it builds, it puts more stress on the body, and not just one particular part of the body, the entire body. So you're adding excess weight to your skeleton, right? So if you're adding weight to your skeleton, that means it's going to put pressure on your joints. It's going to put pressure on your muscles. It's going to put pressure on your arteries, your organs. Everything has to work a little bit harder to support that extra weight that you have on your body, right? So that is the con of it, right? It kind of makes everything more difficult, right? Less efficient, right? You're not able to move. You're probably not able to jump as high or run as fast just because you have so much weighing down your organs, your tissues, and your muscles as well. So that's a general con that I want a lot of people to think of. It's like, think of it as you're forcing your body to work a lot harder than it needs to work, right? I saw something the other day that is I want a lot of people to think about too. Is just think about an overall measurement of just your overall health is your resting heart rate, right? Like looking at your resting heart rate is usually a great indicator of how your overall general health is, especially in the sense of how hard your body has to work. And granted, heart rate is affected by a lot of different things too, but in most cases with people who are overweight or obese or who have that extra stress on their body, it shows up within
your heart is pumping a lot harder to push blood through your body. So
correct. Yeah. So that is a general con that I want most people to just understand. Like that is what you're essentially doing to your body when you put on more body fat, right?
Yeah.
And then from a visceral perspective too, even worse, right? You're building that
stress
body
around
fat,
the organs,
more stress around the organs as well. So, that's pretty much.
Those are bad.
Those are really bad.
Pros of body fat. So keep in mind, there is a certain percentage of your weight that should be body fat. For males and females, it's going to be different. More so because females, there are more of your reproductive organs require more body fat to function properly. And so having good body fat, so remember the visceral is not what we're talking about. Having those other 4 types of good body fat are important for organ function, brain function, in terms like think of when you've been like super hungry and you have brain fog, right? So
now.
having good body fat is very essential. So those good body fats, we call those essential body fats for a reason. Your body can't make those body fats. So those are going to be like your omega-3s, like all those fats that you get through your diet that are very essential to surviving. So when you think of having enough body fat, I can just say we both have different examples, but from a female and personal perspective, when I was competing in bodybuilding competitions, I got down to 9% body fat.
My gosh.
That is way below. And I think I was maybe 107 pounds at that time. So 9% of already not a lot of weight is not that much body fat. I lost my period for 4 months and was maybe at that body fat for a few weeks. You know what I mean? So it is very detrimental to your health. It's not worth it. It's not healthy. It's not good.
Yes.
It can cause a lot of cons, just like having too much body fat can.
Exactly. So it's I don't want people to think like body fat I want zero body fat.
Cushion. It is important for.
Yes. And that's an example I'm going to give. So when I was like a sophomore in college, a freshman and sophomore, I was through high school. I played sports year round. I was pretty resilient, never really got hurt. Got to college, obviously, playing college football, the impact is higher. The level of just competition is a lot higher, right? So it's more the physicality of it is just a lot more intense. So I was getting hurt left and right, like shoulder, knee, ankle, contusion. Like I just was kept getting hurt. And I remember seeing, we had like a nutritionist on staff, and then it got to a point where I just ended up seeing somebody just to see like, why do I need to bulk? Do I need to put on more weight? Whatever the case may be. I did my body fat, had my entire body composition done, and I was think 3.8% body fat. I did the bod pod, by the way. So it's not the most accurate, but it's pretty accurate,
up there.
Right?
Yeah.
So it said I was 3.9% body fat, which I remember at the time I was lean. I was also muscular, but I was like prep, like bodybuilding ready. For football, that's not good because when you're super lean, and granted, you see a lot of like super lean guys out there, but when you're making continuous contact, right, your body needs that cushion, right? I didn't have like the enough cushion between my muscles to be able to withstand that impact. And it got to a point where it's like, she was like, you need to eat. Like you might not be eating enough, or you need more. And that's when I first learned about, just obviously calories was just something that I already knew about, but that's when I first learned about macros and understanding how your macros really affect your body too. So she improved my protein, increased it by a lot. I wasn't eating enough. And once I understood how much food that my body needed, I gained that body fat naturally, and it was crazy. I just felt like more resilient. Like I felt like I could get through those games without being so beat up. So that's an instance from a physical standpoint where body fat is good for, is necessary and good for your body. So obviously, if you're just doing it for the aesthetics and you want to look great, you're not worried about impact. So, you know what I mean? You can try to decrease that body fat as much as can until it's, you know, for from a healthier standpoint.
And I do want to say too, like on terms of like being lean, it may look appealing, and like being 3.8% body fat probably looked like, oh, he's so ripped, but he's always getting hurt. I was miserable. I was so tired, lethargic, brain fog, like would drive somewhere and be like, wait, what am I here for again? It like real life. And so it really messes with your body, even though from the outside, like it might look really great, but how long can you sustain that? You know? So things to keep in mind when it comes to pros and cons of body fat.
Some people probably, I didn't even know there were pros to having body fat. So there you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
So let's get into everyone's favorite topic, how to lose body fat and how to burn body fat. So like we mentioned earlier, body fat is lost through, like you said, waste, expiration of breath. So intake versus expenditure. So let's go into like the calories. Calories are energy. It's literally energy that your body is taking in. That energy is stored, or that energy is utilized. And utilized not just by going on a run, but literally moving around, thinking. Your brain utilizes that energy, working. How many times think back to where, like, especially if you have a desk job and you're working all day long and you're getting irritated and brain fog and you haven't eaten, right? Like your body literally needs that energy to sustain what you are doing. And that goes from sleeping to working out to working, playing with your kids, like
activity matters.
Everything.
For sure. Yeah. And this is generally what most people care about as far as like tracking calories. This is like the baseline way to measure your progress. And this is why people are so obsessed with calories, because it's simple to understand. It's energy in versus energy out. It's a lot deeper than that, and we're going to get into that. But you know, we want people to really just take that with a grain of salt. Yes, generally you gain or you will lose body fat if you're eating, or if you're putting less energy in your body than you are burning.
Yes. So, and then we get into the little bit deeper portion of it, calories versus macros. So there's been plenty of instances where we've had clients say, like, I'm eating less calories than I'm burning, but I'm still not losing weight. So a lot of that can be, one, you might be mistracking. So you might be under calculating what you're truly eating. Things like sauces, liquids, your drinks, your coffees, your Gatorades, like all of those things also are energy that you're putting into your body. So I can't tell you how many times people are like, I didn't track my drinks, or I didn't track my sauces, and there's another 700 calories.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now, and this is, I'm shameless, but I love Chick-fil-A. It's very good. And one thing that turns me off from Chick-fil-A sometimes is the sauces. I looked up the sauce. It'll tell you on the menu. Yeah, it tells you the calorie content of a Chick-fil-A sauce is 150 calories.
Yes.
So think if you're just slamming 4 of those sauces, right?
Because one is not enough.
Because one is definitely not enough, right? So we'll do a whole nother episode on hidden calories and things that people don't really, you know, think about, in the sense of how much that could be making a difference in your intake for the day. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
You know?
And then on that note, if you are tracking accurately, calories versus macros do make a difference. So if you're consuming only carbs, and then you're lifting heavy and you're like, I'm lifting to build strength so I can increase my metabolism, and I'm only eating carbs. No protein to support muscle recovery, no healthy fats to support any of the other organ functions that your body needs. So now you're just utilizing some carbs, and then the rest of those get stored, and then your body's like, okay, what about the protein and the fat, you know? So your breakdown of calories also matter a lot, and usually it's the protein that's under consumed.
Correct.
Just from experience, that's usually what we find is the lowest. And the reason that matters is because, going back to your muscle increasing your metabolism, your protein intake can also increase your metabolism. 100%. So eating more protein also increases the rate at which you're burning fat. So if you increase that protein intake, that can be beneficial in burning body fat as well. So yeah, little changes to, you could eat the same amount of calories and just change the breakup of the calories, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. So generally speaking, like we say all this to say, your food matters. Like, and we said this in our last podcast. Please go listen to that if you haven't already. Please. The importance of food and your nutrition is non-negotiable, meaning like you can't beat it. Like you can't get around trying to eat. And we said this in the last podcast. We don't want to use the word bad, but you can't out-train a bad diet, right? So, or bad nutrition. So, focus on your nutrition as much as possible. If your goal is to really lose and drop some body fat, your nutrition is very, very, very important. I can't tell you how many times we want to stress that. It is very important. You can't skip it. So, yeah. Let's get into, one little topic we want to talk about, because this is, we see it on our YouTube channel. People ask this probably, a couple, maybe more. Sometimes it used to be every day, and then it got to a point, I think people are starting to understand it now, or we got the point across. But generally speaking, we want to talk about spot reduction and how it is not. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Let's be straight up. Spot reduction, and what I mean by that is if you have, like Toya mentioned earlier, everybody stores body fat differently. Some people store it around their abdomen, some people in the legs and the calves, everywhere, right?
And the reason for that is because when you're born with those fat cells, you don't get to say like, put 5 fat cells in my leg, 5 in my arm. Those fat cells are going to go wherever they want to go. So you can't decide where the fat cells go, and you can't decide when and where they shrink.
Correct. So, we get comments all the time. Can you guys please? And they're like begging us, make a workout for lower back fat.
Love handles
for the fat underneath the triceps, for neck. Like we've got neck fat before, like exercises. So if they're like, think about it. If there was an exercise, like if you have neck fat, which again, people build body fat everywhere, and we're over here doing a workout with resistance.
If you're listening to this, please go watch.
Right? Back. We're doing a neck workout. How we're like, people in the fitness industry who know what they're doing and talking about would look at this and be like, this is a shame. This is bad. This is not real, right? Because you can't just work a particular area and expect it to shrink. You can build some muscle.
Build that area with some muscle.
Yeah, you can build some muscle in those areas, which again, building muscle helps in the rate in which you burn fat, right? So that helps, but it doesn't help it in the sense of reducing the fat right here, right? So if I do HIIT training, for example, full body HIIT training, my body's going to reduce in body fat wherever it wants to, wherever it feels like it. You have zero control over that. So
you have better luck just praying and like talking to your body every night to say, please, please come from my stomach. Thank you. I love you. Than you do going to do 100 crunches.
Oh,
like,
that's good.
It's not going to come from where, and honestly, I feel like if you focus too much on it coming from there, you might be missing it coming from other places, So you can't spot reduce. And the reason for that is, like we mentioned earlier, the fat has to be broken down and then it's expelled from your body. So when those triglycerides, when the fat is broken down, you don't get to decide where those come from. Like you don't. So when those are broken down, okay, cool. Now it's broken down. Now it has to expel. Now that fat cell has shrunk from wherever it wants to come from first. Sometimes we're lucky and it comes from where we want it to come from first, but generally speaking, for males, it's usually more around the midsection first. For women, that's sometimes last because of those female organs. Like your body,
hips, the legs, the thighs
is needing that fat for your hormones, for your organs. Correct. So don't feel like, I'm doing all these crunches and it's not coming from there. Keep doing the crunches if you want to, feel like the strength there, but the spot reduction is not possible. And if there's ever a workout that tells you like, do this every day and you're going to lose love handles, you might lose some fat in the love handles later, but that workout in itself isn't just targeting the fat on the love handles.
Like, you can draw within the processes of how the body works. Yes, you can say like, oh yes, doing a particular group of exercises can assist in fat loss in a particular area, right? But I think the problem is people say, oh, like when people present a workout, they're like, oh yes, do these exercises to help get rid of fat people here.
Yes.
And then people think, oh, yes, these exercises will get rid of this. Yes. Right? That's not how it works.
Yes.
It's not.
It's kind of like false marketing, essentially. Like any exercise really can help you in body fat. Any movement is not going to hurt your goal of losing body fat, but doing one thing to specifically, the other thing, the flip side of that is like, oh, I want to keep all the body fat in my legs. I only want to lose the midsection and arms. Also not possible. Yeah. You might be doing everything to lose body fat and only losing in your legs first, right? Yeah. So there's no way to just say, if we want you also to think about anything in fitness like this. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Because if we could just spot reduce where we want to lose body fat, wouldn't we all look the way exactly how we want to look? No surgery. Yeah. No, like literally would just be like, oh, I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to lose body fat here. Everything else stays exactly how I want it. Wouldn't we all look the way we want to look?
Yeah. And look, we can go down a rabbit hole of the influence of social media, but on the flip side of it, you do have outliers out there. And by outliers, I mean people who are just genetically built different. Freaks of nature. And obviously doesn't mean like, you know,
they don't work hard.
Or whatever the case may be. But some people literally don't move a muscle and they look great, or they have a distribution that it works for their body. So for example, most people build fat around the midsection and the abs, right? And there are some people who don't build a lot of fat around the midsection.
I want to shout out my younger brother who literally doesn't exercise, eats what he wants, and has abs.
Yes. So, or like in certain women, like there are women who just don't have a lot of body fat around their waist, but it goes to their legs or, you know, where most people would want it to go to the glutes, right? If it's going to go anywhere, might as well go.
How many times have you prayed, like, please just go to my glutes or, you know.
And then it's just a rabbit hole because with social media, now people are amazed, like, how did you build your glutes? And then you have some people. Yes. And it's just a rabbit hole. Now you're trying to build your body like somebody who's genetically built completely different than you. So that's a whole rabbit hole. But just to say, you can't spot reduce. You can't target a specific area and say, look, I want to lose body fat here. Let me just do sit-ups all day. That's not how it works. So,
And then to this, one thing that we didn't really touch on is the modality of your training. That can make a difference. So for example, doing an hour of cardio is going to give you different results than 30 minutes of HIIT training, right? 100%. That HIIT training lower in time might be more beneficial, usually is more beneficial in body fat loss than it is than the hour of cardio. However, that hour of cardio might be more beneficial to endurance and stamina training, right? So your modality of training is also going to determine your rate of body fat loss, your body composition. If you focus on building your glutes, that could make your glutes bigger and also help you lose body fat. So the type of training you're doing is also going to make a difference as well.
For sure.
Cool.
I just want to bring up a point real quick. We did a live a couple weeks ago, and somebody was on there. Was it their boyfriend or like brother or something? And they were
a friend. Yes. Yeah.
And they were basically saying like, can you please tell my friend that doing cardio will help them lose the most weight or something like that.
He's trying to lose body fat and not doing any cardio. Will you please tell him to stop strength training and start doing cardio
to lose weight? And they were trying to like confirm it wanted us to confirm
please
that
tell him I'm right, essentially.
And essentially we were kind of like, actually he has a point. You know what I mean? Like doing strength training, well, honestly, you probably do him more better than solely doing cardio. I tell people all the time, solely doing strength training, and this is different for everybody. I won't say that, but I think it would be more beneficial than solely doing cardio, just because you're giving yourself resistance. And we talked about this before. There's a lot of
you can get cardio from strength training. You can do cardio. She was trying to say cardio in a sense of like running
steady state,
elliptical things like that, and you can do cardio with weights. Like cardio, getting your heart rate up, does not mean going on a run.
Correct.
That is not. It is a form of cardio, but one thing I don't like is when they say only do cardio and stop strength training because the strength training is going to make you bigger. Yes. So do cardio first until you lose weight. I don't like that.
Don't think like that.
So both are beneficial. Yes, you should be doing some form of cardio, if for nothing else but your heart health, right? Yes. But the strength training.
It's
important. The strength training. It is so important.
And one thing I want to say too, strength training like body weight is strength training as well.
Yes, it doesn't mean dumbbells or barbells or kettlebells.
Just strength training doesn't mean you're using a particular
piece of
equipment, right? Strength training, like there are people who do calisthenics, right? Like you can do push-ups, pull-ups, body weight squats, step-ups. Those are all strength training exercises that honestly people should be doing anyway. These are all functional movements that the human body should be performing. So I don't want people to get into this idea that like, you know, and I hate when people think that is the only way and they feel like they have to slave on a treadmill for 45 minutes to lose weight or on a bike. Whereas you can do body weight exercises, you can do core exercise. There's a lot of different things that you can do that is considered strength training, and it's resistance. Your body is resistance.
It's resistance.
When you go down into a squat, your body, your knees, your joints, your hips, everything has to work together to be able to bring your body weight back up, right? This is the reason why people who are sedentary for a long time, who are like, let's say you're in the hospital for 6 months, you've been laying in the hospital bed. These people who get out, they can't do squats, right?
You've lost that muscle mass.
Yeah. And to the point where like you can't lift your body weight up, right? Yep. That is resistance. And that's what I want people to understand. Like strength training is body weight, whether you're adding kettlebell, barbell, doesn't matter. It's important to the body, and you shouldn't take that away, especially when it comes to losing weight or body fat. So.
Didn't one of the greatest athletes of all time only use resistance bands?
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
Thomas. His whole
only resistance bands, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And body weight.
And his whole theory is being pliable, right? Just being able to be mobile, being able to move your body as efficient as possible. It's not about how much weight I can lift. It's not about, you know, how much.
Which is great if you want to. I love lifting heavy. Like it makes me feel strong, but it is functional. Not necessary to be strong.
And it was functional for him to be Tom Brady, right? He didn't need to. What does Tom Brady need to deadlift 500 pounds for? Tom Brady needs to make sure that his mobility is great to where he can throw a ball efficiently over his head.
He needs to have strength to sustain a tackle, to move his body with force.
Hey Tom, if you're looking at this,
but if you want to start using,
shout out. I'll train you, bro. We can reach our goals together.
But so that's important too for fat loss, is just understanding like it doesn't just require hours of cardio. Cardio, strength training, different modalities are going to be important. Do them all.
Yes.
But don't ever stop strength training. If someone tells you stop strength training and do cardio first to lose weight, tell them you're going to go on a lifting date with them and explain to them the benefits of strength training. So,
and if you're solely doing something like
even only strength training, that's also
exactly.
Good. So cool.
Next thing we want to get into is, now that we've talked about what body fat is, how it's gained, how it's lost, the importance, the pros and cons, everything. Now we want to talk about, you should have a general understanding now what the difference between fat loss and weight loss.
Yep.
And I think this is what we want to clarify, because a lot of people come to us, whether it's our clients or people on the internet or people on YouTube, Instagram, say, I want to lose weight. Weight. That's what it's all about.
Sound like those crosswalks. Weight.
So most people, lose weight. And as trainers, as people who understand what people are looking for when they're talking about weight, 9 times out of 10, they're talking about body fat, right? These are two different things. Like losing weight and losing body fat are two different wings. So wings, I'm hungry. See what happens when you got brain fog
versus weight loss. Yes. They're two different things. So let's get into it.
I'm hungry.
I got you.
We good. All right. So let's put it like this. I'm gonna put it as an example. Someone who is obese. Let's say you're a male, 6'2", 340 pounds, right? That's considered obese. For someone who is, that size, losing weight is usually the first course of action. Because like I mentioned before, what does excess body fat do? It puts more stress on the body, puts more stress on the organs, right? So generally for someone who's that heavy, losing weight is very beneficial. And honestly, if walking on the treadmill at an incline at 3 works for them, it's great, because it's going to help alleviate a lot of that stress from their body, right? Let's say you got somebody who's 6'4", they're 215 pounds and they want to lose weight. Generally, that person is in most cases, they're not obese, right? They might have slightly overweight by standards, but they're not obese to the point where what they're generally talking about is losing excess body fat, right? Yes. They're trying to get back to, either what their ideal body weight, and that's a whole nother subject, and that doesn't really account for muscle, but that person is generally trying to lose body fat in order to reach a certain weight goal or just to generally feel better and move better. So
yeah. So when it comes to losing weight, you have to take into account what weight is. Weight is body fat. It is your skeleton. It is muscle.
Bones,
it's literally water weight.
blood.
Your hair is literally everything, right? That is your weight. So when you step on a scale, the scale doesn't look at your body and say, okay, let me take the skeleton out. Let me take,
we got this.
It just takes the total weight. So if you put a ham on the scale, it's giving you the weight of the ham, or a turkey. Are you eating the bones of the bird? You know, we can go all day long on this. So when you step on a scale, that is what your weight is. And so going back to most people, they want to lose body fat. It is more so a physical thing. They want to lose that physical stuff that you see, right? And so the reason the difference is important is because you could go and do hours and hours of cardio, lower your caloric intake, and your weight is going to drop. The difference there is you may not be burning body fat. You could be losing a substantial amount of muscle. That is decreasing your weight overall, right? However, what that can also do is decrease the rate at which you're burning body fat. So you could be holding on to body fat and losing muscle. Your weight goes down, but your body composition doesn't change the way you want it to. You don't feel as good. You might feel what we call skinny fat, right? And so that kind of gets us to where most clients say, like, I want to be toned. Right. So
I want that little muscle popping.
I want the muscle popping. I want lines. I want definition. What toned is a loss of body fat to see muscle.
Tone equals muscle.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
And if you lose weight or you lose body fat and you don't have muscle there, you can't be toned.
Yes.
Right. So you have to build muscle in the areas you want to be toned. I'm pointing to my tricep, your quads, your calves,
everywhere,
your glutes, anywhere that you want to see a definition there, there has to be muscle there, or else it's just going to be arm. Right.
Example.
Or leg. Right. So skinny fat is just losing weight, whether that's water or muscle or whatever it is, and not really
minimal
losing
muscle.
body fat. Yes. So a lot of times we try to explain that to clients because when they first started training, they're always like, should I be doing more cardio? They're scared to strength train because their goal in mind is to get smaller. And they think strength training is going to make them larger. Right. And so,
no.
So
yes and no.
Really understanding if your main goal is to get toned, you have to build muscle and you have to lose body fat.
I think I want to get and you can say this more than I can, the bulking mentality or getting too bulky. Like what you have to do in order to bulk, I think that's, especially with a lot of women, they get scared of that. You have to lift so much more heavier than what you think you're lifting, and you have to eat way much more food than what you think you're eating. Right. So I just threw that out there.
Yes.
Just as a quick little,
100%.
note.
And then on that note, that kind of takes us to measuring body fat, right? A lot of times in measuring the body fat too, people solely step on the scale. And a lot of times they can get discouraged if they're doing all this strength training and the scale goes up and they're like, I knew it. My arms are getting bigger. My legs are getting bigger. I want you to understand how hard it is to build muscle.
Trust me, she knows.
And is it?
To this day, she's doing it.
I have been trying to build my glutes
for years.
Since I came out the womb.
Okay.
I have never had, and that can be genetics also, like that's a whole nother podcast, but it is hard. My arms, let me tell you, they will get Hulk Hogan on you real quick. But my legs, I have to work so hard to see a little baby quad line.
A baby
like
quad.
A little baby quad. It is hard. And just putting this out there, this again is a lot. At one point I was eating 2,600 calories. That is a lot of food.
That's
it was
I'm eating right
hard
now.
to do. I was forcing myself to drink shakes before bed just to put on some baby quads. Like it is work to put on muscle. So a lot of times when you're blaming the muscle gain, please check your food and make sure it's not fat gain, because it is hard. Before you blame the muscle, it is hard. So all of that is a whole nother podcast, but fat loss versus weight loss, there is a difference. And then measuring body fat, because there's a difference between fat loss and weight loss, we don't want you to solely look at the scale. The scale, if you're trying to lose weight,
it's a good
form of measurement. However, if you're trying to lose body fat,
you need more.
It is not the greatest form.
Correct.
Here's a good example. My first and second bodybuilding competition. My first one, I weighed 107 pounds on stage. Feedback I got, I know it's little. Feedback I got from the judges was I needed to grow my glutes, case in point, story of my life, and I needed to put on a little bit more muscle, okay? When I did my second competition, I was 115 pounds on stage, 8 pounds heavier. I looked significantly leaner. The picture between the first one, I probably looked 10 to 15 pounds heavier in the first picture, my first on stage, than my second. I was significantly leaner.
Might have to put a little picture
Might have to put a little picture.
To...
But I was 8 pounds heavier.
Wow.
That was due to my body composition changing. If I would have solely focused on the scale, I probably would have stepped on stage like, oh my goodness, like I did worse than before. I took all this time off to compete and build and blah, 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 blah. So if you're trying to lose body fat, your scale is not the only point of measurement. You can get your body fat tracked. To that, I'll say most people have access to a DEXA scan, which is one of the most accurate ways that you have access to.
DEXA.
Yes.
DEXA.
You can find them. A lot of gyms have them now. Like if you go to a pretty big gym, they might have them. Where we are, it's $40 for a scan, and it's pretty cost efficient because you only need to get them like every couple months or so. It's not something you need to do every week or even every month. So that's pretty cost effective to keep track of your goals. And it tells you a lot about your body composition. So DEXA scan is one way to measure body fat.
And then there are a lot of other ways. One that's underrated that I've used a lot more is, number one, taking pictures, especially if your goal is to lose body fat. Because I don't think a lot of, when she's speaking of composition, I was thinking of bodybuilding. When she's talking about composition, like your body, again, you can be, two people can be the same height, 185 pounds, and build completely different. Just because one has more muscle, one has more body fat, right? So when it comes to body composition, like you have to, pictures is one way that'll show more than just the scale will. And I just for us example, I know people, we put on our
Instagrams.
On our Instagram, we did like a little cut. And for a lot of people, they're like, you look the same, you know what I mean? It doesn't look much. But for people who like, when you're already lean, the
tiniest
differences, right? It's very small increments, right? So we didn't obviously have, 40 pounds of body fat to lose, but we wanted to lose a certain percentage, right? In order to feel a certain way and to look a certain way, right? So your body composition can show in pictures more than it would show on the scale. So I always recommend people, especially if you're starting a program like the Level Up 2.0, take pictures before you get started with the program. Or if you just, kind of on a weight loss journey right now, you haven't really taken pictures before, it is underrated. Take pictures, front pictures, side pictures, back pictures. There's many different ways that you can make those comparisons. Try to take those pictures, and then later down the road, try to take it in the same light. I think same clothing, to give you a good representation of what your progress is looking like. Because again, we've heard so many testimonials of people who have I only lost 4 pounds, but my body looks completely different.
Yes.
And if I hadn't taken that picture and looked at it, I would have been discouraged. And literally, who knows where that would take you. So pictures, what are other ways? Oh, just clothing. Like I just mentioned, like like having a certain type of clothing. I had clients before where I would tell them, their goal was to lose 2 sizes. And I was like, all right, buy those 2 sizes. And over the course of time, put on that shirt every once in a while.
And start to fit put on those
jeans. And then she was like, oh my gosh, I can almost close the button. And that's motivating, right?
Is.
Because those jeans, she couldn't even imagine herself getting in those jeans. But once that button started to slowly come together, she saw hope. it motivated her, and she eventually, I mean, those jeans ended up being too big. So,
And one thing with doing measurements like this, another one is tape measurements. So especially in the areas that you're trying to lose. So just taking a body tape, these are all things you can do yourself too, that don't require any money, that you can do just at home. The body measurements and the pictures, if you do those weekly, it's something that also helps to keep you on track. Yeah. So for example, I would have to do my pictures every Sunday, and it kind of set the tone for the week. You know, it also, just from client experience, most people, the weekends is where they lack. If you know you're taking pictures on Sunday, you want to be real good on Saturday, you know? So it's just little things to help you stay on track as well. So you measuring your body fat, taking pictures, clothing, and tape measures. And I want to say on measuring the body fat, be careful on the modality and who's doing it, because bioelectrical impedance, that's anything like a in-body or like that thing that you're holding. I can't even think of the name of it. Or even like
if you have a scale at home and it has those little footprints on it that
those
read
are
through your foot.
bioelectrical.
Yeah, those aren't accurate at all.
Yes, and the reason for that is because it goes off of, it's bioelectrical impedance. That bioelectrical is going through your hydration levels. Sorry, I blanked. And so your hydration can skew those results. The time of day, if you've had caffeine, a lot of things can skew them. And then calipers, that's another like cheap way to measure.
And those are the little if you don't know, those are the little pinchy things where they pull your stomach. And
and who is doing that on you can skew it, because they could be a little bit higher up or a little bit lower or a little bit more to the left. That makes a big difference, believe it or not. So be careful when it comes to body fat measurements, because those can be very discouraging if done inaccurately. So a DEXA scan is usually what we recommend.
And it's pretty, the whole point is a consistent measure of, like, if you have two different people doing your pinching, then it could be skewed in a lot of different ways. Where if you have, and they may have completely different methods of how they do it. So you don't want your progress to be on someone's error.
Absolutely not. So all of these ways are different ways that have helped us too. Even us personally, we know better. And there's been times where, you know, I look at my pictures and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, and they're the ones that we did before Hawaii that one year. I remember I posted them and I had people guess how much weight I lost. It was like 4 pounds, 5 pounds, 6 pounds. I had lost 0.9, not even 1. So, you know, sometimes you'll be really surprised by the amount that just staying consistent will change the way your body looks and not reflect on the scale. I can't tell you the last time I weighed myself. When I go to the doctor, I say the same weight every time, because I'm like,
it's been a while.
Stuff's fitting the same.
And I think it's to the point where we feel it. Like, I think the only time we step on the scale is when we literally feel different. Because there's sometimes where I'm like, man, I feel light, you know, like, and that's not necessarily a good thing for me. And I'll step on the scale, and sure enough, I'm like 10 pounds less than what I weighed last time. You know what I mean? Or vice versa.
So sometimes it can be beneficial to you. And like people in a profession like wrestling or boxing, like you have to make a weight class. You don't care if you're losing body fat or muscle. Like you're trying to lose some weight to make your weight class, you know? So we've had friends that even they'll just sit in saunas and just sweat. I just got to get this weight off, you know.
Put the Glad bag on your body and
exactly.
Go on a run.
There's times where weight is like you don't care, you're just trying to get the number on the scale down.
Correct.
That's a whole nother topic. But generally speaking,
if weight is involved, is usually, you know, either someone, again, like I mentioned, who's very, very overweight, or someone is usually competition based, whether it's you know, running,
wrestling,
bodybuilding, fighting, MMA, all that stuff.
Getting lighter.
Let's close this episode off. So hopefully you learned a lot about body fat in general. Again, this is a foundation. This is a baseline. Take notes if you need to, but really understand that what body fat is and how much, you know, having excess body fat, what it does to your body, and not having enough body fat, what it also does to your body as well. They're very important. Body fat is important to the body. And it's important that you just have a good relationship of what the process is of how it's either lost or gained. I think once people really understand it, I think it will keep people from going down the path of doing things that aren't sustainable, to be honest with you.
And maybe one day we can do a podcast on the different types of fat or exactly how it is truly formed, and like it is a science experiment.
Let us know
on
if you
how
want to
body
get, because we'll get sciencey in here. We're trying to keep it simple to where the general public can understand.
Because you don't care about the science terms. Let's be real. You care like the basic overall, and that's all you need to know. Like when that girl, she's like, please forgive me, I thought metabolism was an organ. There are times that I think we have to remember this is our profession. So just Second like nature. Going to the dentist, I can't tell you what's going on underneath my gums, but a dentist can, because that's what they studied, So these are terms that we had to learn, that we had to understand for our profession, just like we hire a CPA. We hire people to do things for us that our CPA probably thinks I am not smart. I ask him questions on everything.
He's like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yes, that is state tax, not federal.
Things to him that are so obvious, it's the same thing. So please don't ever think that things are a dumb question or that's not what you learned.
If you're asking a question that you think is dumb, it's probably because you got your information from somebody who wasn't knowledgeable, or if you're getting so much conflicting information, then go ahead. Ooh, oh, she's burning.
This goes with the podcast, and we can close it up on this.
Okay, here we go. What is? Oh God.
Muscle does not weigh more than fat.
I think. Yeah. Like she's been wanting to say that for a while.
That just goes to where, like, the things that, where people so confidently, they're like, oh, the scale went up because muscle weighs more than fat.
We see that in our comments there are people arguing in our comments saying, no, you didn't lose, muscle weighs more than fat, that's why you're gaining. And I'm like, no.
It does not. And that's one of those things that you heard from someone. And the reason I'm so passionate about this, because in my nutrition 4850 class in college,
Shout out Mizzou.
I said that to my professor, and he looked at me like he had failed at life. He was like, what did you just say?
No, he failed you.
Yes. And that was the first time in my life, my senior year in college, that someone corrected me on that. And I felt passionately about that, because now it makes so much sense. How can a pound weigh more than a pound? I can't, a pound can't weigh more than a pound. So muscle is more dense, it takes up less space. Fat is not as dense, it takes up more space. But a pound is a pound is a pound. So good thing to end on, that muscle and fat weigh the same.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a dad joke for you all today.
I had one, I forgot it. So Toya said she has one. So if you don't know, if this is the first episode you're listening to, we're gonna end every episode with a fitness dad joke, just because
some type of segment. It's not always gonna be a dad joke.
It could be. If we don't have a segment,
FAQs.
we're just gonna end with a laugh and good vibes. So
okay,
what you got, Toya?
All right, so Juice has been golfing a little lately. That's his new hobby. So I got a dad joke on topic.
Okay.
Why did the golfer pack two packs? Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Why did the golfer pack 2 pairs of socks in his golf bag?
Why did the golfer pack 2 pairs of socks in his golf bag? 2 pairs of socks. Oh my God, this is easy. This is a layup, Juice. I don't even want to say it.
Say it.
Because everybody's saying it right now. Because it's a hole in one.
No, in case he gets a hole in one.
Okay. Oh,
Why did he pair?
I got the joke. I got the joke. Good one, Toya. Everybody give a round of applause for that great that joke.
In case he gets a hole in one.
That's a good one. I mean, it was a layup, but some people might have been lost.
You've been golfing, so I just wanted to test your.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah. So, all right, guys and ladies and gents.
Any FAQs today, or?
Actually, no FAQs today off the top of my head, but I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you learned a lot. Again, this is one of the subjects that was presented to us in the comments, so we're taking you guys' suggestions very strongly. We write them down, and we have plenty of topics ready to go. And we apologize. I apologize. We want to be more consistent with these podcasts. We've been working on a lot. If we go ghost, it's because something else is.
That Level Up 2 program really took our life away.
But we're excited. We love doing these podcasts, and we're seeing the growth. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers on the Juice and Toya YouTube channel. So appreciate you all's support. But we really want to be more consistent and put out more information. And now that we have kind of a stockpile of podcast topics, now that we want to put more out there, so you will get more consistent episodes. We promise. And also, one thing we threw up in the air too, we're thinking about doing a live podcast as well. where you can just chat with us live. We can read your questions and all that stuff. Obviously,
just discuss.
Yeah, just discuss, have some good vibes, and you can check it in live with us. So if that's something you'd be interested in, drop it down in the comments wherever you're listening to this or looking at it, and we will definitely for sure make that happen. So
So closing it up, check out our Level Up 2.0 program. Again, it's available on the app if you have a subscription. If you don't have or don't want a subscription, it is available for purchase. I will say, too, if you purchase it, it will have you download the app, but you do not need a subscription. Once you purchase, hit that exclusives tab, and everything is laid there for you.
Correct.
And then also make sure you check out our merch. onebodyla.com/shop. We'll put all of this in the show notes in the description. So you'll have all the links you need for everything.
For sure. So we appreciate you for joining us. Be sure to drop a rating, give us 5 stars, please.
And
also,
leave a suggestion on what you'd like to hear.
Leave your
next.
suggestions. Hit the like button on the YouTube channel. We appreciate all of you for joining us for another podcast episode. We're going to go eat because I have a little brain fog.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you all at the next episode.